I was working on yesterday, so and I'm getting ready to go to work today. So I'll see if I pop out a quick video. I know what you're saying, dude. Didn't you quit your job? Yeah, yeah, I did. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be quitting. Okay, well, good luck with that. Yeah, yeah. So next week we're going to get you to do this, this. You know how it works. But this is the kind of the final week anyway. So I'm gonna run out the rest of the week, and because I don't like leaving people hanging and stuff like that. So I'll make my decision on Friday, so to speak, and then that'll be it, so to speak. For now. All right, so cap and trade. Okay, the Al Gore carbon tax has made it to Canada. Quebec and Ontario are getting in line with California. Julie, where you going? You're going to take my birds from me. Yes, dog. And went out. So with cap and trade, it's a scam. That's the shortest way you could say it. It's a scam. Okay, here's how it's supposed to work, okay? And I guess they figured nobody looks into this stuff. And I guess some people you could snow them pretty easy, but it's not going to reduce any carbon emissions. It's just not going to do it. And not only that, it's going to actually make things a lot worse for the Canadian public. You have to understand, okay, ever since the Alberta catastrophic, nuking of the oil industry by Saudi Arabia, which, again, it was supposed to be destabilizing places like Russia, their economy, Iran, Venezuela, but it got everybody, right? And the thing is that's why, you notice right after that happens, 4 months of that, 4 months of Saudi Arabia pumping more oil than the world needs and dropping the price of a barrel of oil to unprofitable margins. That was also done to take out the fracking industry in the United States to not make it profitable. Okay? And you have to understand, in Canada and the United States, many of our major environmental groups are, a lot of the big ones, like the Tides Foundation and stuff like that. I forget the other one there, but anyway, they're basically funded by Saudi Arabia to, because they don't want competition, right? So right after that happens, 4 months of that, takes 30 years of prosperity away from Alberta, and now it's going to take 10 years for Alberta to recover from this $7.5 billion hit. Mind you, because they could recover, balance the budget in 1 year, but then, everybody would be so broke it would be, so they're going to take 10 years. So once that happens, it hasn't come out on the mainstream media, but the way it works in Canada is the have provinces take some of their money and give to the have-not provinces. Quebec is a have-not province. Ontario is a have-not province, which it shouldn't be. Neither of these provinces should be have-not provinces. Hey, good you, what's up, buddy? And but the thing is that transfer payments, I'm sure, no longer coming from Alberta to Quebec. So that's all of a sudden you have Quebec and Ontario saying, "Oh, we're going to balance our budgets in XYZ amount of time." In Quebec here, it has went like loony toony. The provincial taxes are going up. Almost every service you could think of is going up. Hunting, fishing, trapping license, anything like that is like gone up like almost double on everything. Deer hunting license last year was $54. Okay, maybe you don't hunt deer, but just give you an example. This year's going to be $80. You see what I mean? Like, that's not like a $2 hike. A fishing license was $19, 26 something, or almost $30 now. Overnight. On top of that, you got the more taxes coming onto the people everywhere. It's the province is broke, right? And of course you got the rowdies in Quebec City and in Montreal. They're the students there. They're taken to the streets again. But that's just the start of it. The students are usually the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, because students will rally on a cause quicker than average Joe Blow who goes to work every day. That type of thing. Not that I'm bashing students, but students are typically more, younger people are typically more passionate on, on stuff like that, and around their peers, they rally quicker. It's just, they're already in a big group all the time. Schools or colleges and stuff like that, they're already big groups of people, so you've already got the people. It's just, you hang out in the library or you go protest on the street for something, like that's, hence I call the, useful idiot communist student type of thing. I know not all students are communists, but you have to understand, most schools are left wing and brainwash people left wing. That's why it takes them almost till they're in their 30s before they realize that the whole thing's a scam. Trying to convince you to get rid of all the things that you shouldn't be getting rid of that would actually help the system rather than break it. So anyway, getting back to the cap and trade. Okay, so we got provinces that are broke. So what do they got? Cap and trade, which California's doing. I wonder how. Look at the California economy. It's just booming. It's just doing. No, actually, isn't it very much like Quebec and Ontario? In fact, it's way worse. Aside from the drought that's going on there, which they're blaming on global warming. Again, this is April 14th. The snow's if it didn't rain last night, that snow would be about double what it is. So you can see, to me, this whole global warming thing, yes, there is some warming, I know that. But we've been warming since the last ice age, so it's not man-made. It's a cycle, All the data I see, and the science, it's wonky science that comes up with the feedback loop and stuff like that. But the thing is the whole global warming thing. When Al Gore said, by the year 2013, we're going to be standing on the surface of Mars. Well, it's 2015. And it's still kind of chilly out there. So what happens with the warm air and cold air? Well, the cold air up here, which is slowly warming up, holds the hot air down in the south. That's why you see, the drought in the Midwest there, because the hot air can't go anywhere. The cold air is holding it down there. Now, there's other reasons why there's droughts in California and stuff like that. How much of it is man-made? How much of it is just bad management? Well, there's lots to go around, right? So, like managing the water resources and stuff like that. So there's that going on, but Al Gore basically came up with this kind of cap and trade thing. They called it carbon credits. Now they call it cap and trade. Because if you called it carbon credits, people say, didn't Al Gore make a ton of money off that? He's still making money off of it. Maurice Stroud, these are the guys that got the whole global warming thing kind of kicked off, right? So how does it work? Okay, Factory A doesn't pollute at all. In fact, it goes lower than its regulated emission standards, meaning that it will basically get credits or money, a form of currency. They call it credits, but whatever, for not polluting. And they can take that and sell it to the factories that pollute more than the emission standards, who then can pollute. Basically they're paying their carbon price. So in theory, it sounds really good, but there's problems, like major problems. First off, this doesn't, their idea that they come out to a zero sum, well, here's the thing. It depends how you rig the game. Okay, beforehand, you look at what are our emission standards right now that we're not meeting. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We know this company here always makes the deadline. This company over here never does. Okay, which company do we want to keep? Which one do we not want to keep? Okay, well, we'll go with that. So we'll set the standard at the above the guy who makes the lowest, okay? And we'll set it up high enough so that say, oh, look at that, we've reached this standard. And then you give that company, which is probably a favored company. Again, we have fascistic governments everywhere, so the ones that are in bed with the politicians are going to do the best, right? So now this company is getting all these carbon credits and it's selling it to all these other companies that can't make emissions, mostly probably private sector, non-government funded. Okay, so now what's happened is this zero sum, okay, it may show up on paper, but did we reduce any emissions? No, we didn't. We just bounced the numbers somewhere. Now, here's where it gets worse, here's how the population loses out on it. So Factory A, who's making the grade because they get, investment from government, industry, gets all these carbon credits, and it's now, they're making more money selling their credits to another company that can't. But now, because of the law, the company that makes a little bit higher pollution, that money isn't going to go back into them like they say. They say, okay, well, we're going to take that money and basically reinvest so people can, bring in new technologies to make things cleaner. They'll do maybe a little bit of that, but it's not going to be given to that company. No, that company's going to have to pay for more to upgrade its factory on top of that. So now what happens? So they have to buy carbon credits, which is going to be in the billions, right? And they're going to have to buy equipment to update, and they're going to go out of business. So now you only have Factory A. Now, what happens when you create scarcity? Prices go up. So now the cost of living goes up for whatever the energy is, and you got no competition, meaning no competition, You got a monopoly. Once you got a monopoly, they can set the price at whatever they want. How do you think the oil industry works? So that's the problem with cap and trade. And at the end of the day, all the tree-hugging environmentalists out there, I mean, anybody that follows my channel, you know I'm a nature person. I mean, I spend a lot of time outside. I spend a lot of time running through the brush. Yeah, I want a clean environment, sure. But to me, if you're going to lower emission standards or create better technology, that's fine. But if it's just going to line the pockets of politicians and stuff without actually reducing a single ounce of carbon, which carbon per se, it's kind of everywhere if you haven't noticed throughout the universe. So, but carbon emissions and stuff like that, and the CO2 thing. Well, the thing about the CO2 thing is that number one, plants survive on CO2. I do get that. Yes, there's some. I'm not saying we don't damage our environment at all, but what I'm saying is, the whole global warming scam is to put in a carbon tax. Oh yes, on top of the cap and trade, there's already carbon taxes here in Quebec. And, Quebec and BC have it. I think Ontario probably has it too, or they're bringing it in. So they're raising taxes. Okay, they're charging more for things like hospital wait times. If you go to a hospital, I don't know if they're doing it in Ontario, but I know they're going to do it here in Quebec. Is if you go to the hospital, you're going to have to pay to sit in the waiting room. So that's going up. Things like that are going up on top of the taxes going up, on top of instituting having the carbon tax on top of the cap and trade. So the cost of living for people is just going to go astronomical in the next couple of years. And it's getting, and the way the government spends is, well, we need to do this. It's going to be a little bit more, but that's okay. These people are making ridiculous money. Again, that's the problem with this reality of some of these government employees. They don't know what it's like to be in the non-government employee category. You're making between 17 and 37% on average less than your government worker counterpart. So whatever job you're doing, that's equal type of thing. We'll say a government welder versus a private sector welder. That type of thing. But the thing is the manufacturing and everything. All those factories. Guess what? Here's the other scam about the whole global warming thing and the environmental thing. Okay, we'll lower our emissions here in Canada, we'll lower them in the States, we'll lower them in the UK, we'll lower them all over the place, right? And then they'll put all the factories offshore, i.e. India, China, which have no emission standards whatsoever. China, yeah, we're going to start doing our emission standards in 20 years. Yeah, and you think, I mean, the Chinese completely have destroyed their environment. I mean, their water's pretty much poisoned, their air's poisoned, They got no environment regulations, whatever. And we gave them all the businesses. We gave them all the manufacturing. Now we're sending the manufacturing to South America. My Prime Minister Harper basically, talked about, okay, well, now we're going to be sending, with Cuba, we're going to look at sending manufacturing to there. And then we wonder why there's no good manufacturing jobs here. Well, there, they don't have to comply with the regulations. And it's not just the Harper government. I mean, the Liberal government, they did this too. Government after government fails its people. They're not in the interest of the people. Number one, yes, you could call it fascistic, nationalistic. You keep the jobs here. Yes, you could put the standard up, make sure that basically the emissions are world standard setting, and then you get less pollution. And then if other countries want to do business with you, you hold them to the same standard as you. We don't do that with China, India, Mexico, a place like that. And at the end, the people that really lose, for the little bit of jobs that they get in Mexico or India, China, yeah, they're getting a lot of it there, but at what cost to them? And we're all on the same planet. So giving our jobs to China is a bad idea. Why? Well, number one, it's, we're losing the jobs here. Number two, there's no industry standard. So then they make the argument saying, well, yeah, but if you just raise the industry standards to tell people not to pollute, well, then it just puts people out of business. Yes, that's true. So that's why you have to do it slowly, and slowly get better technology. But basically, here in Quebec, you have to understand too, it is a possibility of a half province, but for the sovereignty claim, one of the claims is that they want to make sure that, they make it look like the province is being held back by the rest of the country. It's the opposite. They basically kill industry here, they kill jobs here, they make it almost impossible to work, and then they complain that they don't get enough, right? So but people are seeing through that here. I mean, it's only a handful of people that want to separate here. It's the majority of people here love Canada. It's I know outside of the Quebec, a lot of people think Quebec is full of separatists. Not necessarily. No, it is a really minute faction in the eastern side of the country. Yes, they can be a problem if you rally them up enough, but for the most part, no, they're not even close to. And the thing is if you started giving really good jobs here, I mean, emissions-wise, Quebec is like one of the cleanest provinces in the country. It meets its targets because most of our pollution is hydro, okay? And we have a vast amount of water. So we're not using big smokestacks and stuff like that, but we basically export hydro pretty much throughout the United States. Quebec is like really resource-rich. Lumber, no problem. But the thing is like hydro isn't going to produce the same kind of pollution as, say, a coal factory. You know what I mean? Like and that's what you have in the States. So the idea of, okay, becoming neutral, well, you take the coal plant and you charge him a little more, and then us, well, we get carbon credits. Okay, it kind of works in the sense that, we'll get rich, but the thing is it's not going to go where it's supposed to. It's going to go into the hands of the politicians. They're going to decide what to do with the money, and it's not going to make anybody richer. It's actually going to make people more poor. Again, you put the coal plant out, now what's left? You have to go and do something else rather than say, okay, well, rather than just, do this cap and trade nonsense, what we'll do is we'll set the industry standard high, okay, to make it as clean as possible. And then from there, what we'll do is maybe we'll do government grants. Okay, yes, you have to raise money for that. So you can't do it all in one day. But you could slowly, and anything new, well, it has to be built to the standard so that everybody's competing on the same level. And that's the big one. Is again, this is going to create a monopoly and kill jobs. But that's what the Quebec government does. Now, the Ontario government is even worse off because they don't just kill jobs. What they do is they basically pretty much take the province and put everybody on welfare, i.e. government employees. Yes, government employees, I know some people take offense to that, but they can't exist unless the private sector is there. Problem is Ontario's regulated the private sector away, kind of like they have done here in Quebec too. But so nobody can be innovative. Why? Because everybody's just working for one system. There's no competition. And once you have no competition, you just have a monopoly, and then from there, you just can't move forward. Government can create jobs, but they can't create wealth, right? So it's just kind of one of those ways I see it. It's just another reason to squeeze the people, but that's going to backfire on the government again. Again, people are already squeezed pretty tight. Look, 95,000 people this year have already canceled their satellite subscriptions, okay? That doesn't sound like much. But that's not because people don't like to watch TV. It's not because people don't like satellite. It's because people can't afford that stuff anymore. And people are getting more gradually poor, and then you tell them, well, just another tax here, another tax there. Every few $billion, you got to understand, every 33.5 million bucks that we spend in the government is $1 per person in the country. And we spend a lot more than that. And every time they say, well, just an extra tax, you have to understand on top of, it's like compound taxes. But Karl Marx, in his 10 Pillars of Communism, one of the things was to have a progressive tax, to tax the wealth and land from the people. It's like herding cattle into the city. But it also, it makes people so poor that there's my dog and there's Casey on there. She's probably going to crap. My dog goes craps on my neighbor's lawn. Their dog comes craps on our lawn. It's like, what are you doing? Dogs. But anyway, but the thing is that this cap and trade thing, yeah, it's not going to lower any emission standards. The only way you lower emission standards is if you lower emission standards. So how could you lower emission standards? Well, number one, allow competition. Number two, you got to actually look at the way the government works. Everything they do is expand, 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 okay? The money they waste on, like, new this, new that, they build it, and then they just let it decay. How about, sustain, sustain, sustain? One of the biggest things all governments can do if you want to just get, like, a big booming economy and get the velocity of money going big. Again, you're not creating wealth, you're just creating jobs, but you're also keeping the jobs in the country, you're creating velocity of money. And this is key to getting wealth. The faster money changes hands, the more opportunities people have to open up their own businesses, etc., etc. Basically, have a big infrastructure program. A huge recycling program, that type of thing. And I mean, I'm not talking just pop cans and stuff like that, but I mean, take every, waste management area, or dump, so to speak. Get the people that are on welfare, like actual, like sit on your butt welfare. Say, hey, look, okay, we'll give you 6 months to find a job. You don't find something, We're going to send you there. We'll put a busload of them and clean up the air. Yes, it's a bit of a cost to the government, but it does two things. Number one, people that don't want to work on that stuff will actually go get a job. Number two, for the people that can't find a job, it gives them something to do. Idle hands make for devil's work. This way it keeps their hands occupied. Lower crime. Number three, it gets people used to the idea of working. Number four, it helps the environment. Number five, you're recycling. So that's always good. And it just is benefit, right? And the velocity of money speeds up. You put more money into people's pockets, they will spend it. But we have a consumer-based economy, which is kind of crazy, a debt-based economy, a housing-based economy, and we completely move away from those, from all the stuff that could be more beneficial, such as a green-based economy. So to me, agriculture is green. Yes, it has its problems in massive, in giant agriculture, sure. But micro farming, I think, is the wave of the future. How about we invest in that? Why isn't in every city? Why isn't there massive rooftop gardens everywhere? That type of thing. The solar wind thing doesn't really work very well up here due to things like snow and ice and stuff like that. That stuff is actually worse for the environment. Hydro, I am the biggest fan of hydro. Why? Because if a hydro dam breaks, you might flood a town. A nuclear power plant melts down, even though nuclear power has pretty much all benefits except for when something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, you got to deal with it for 25,000 years. So that's the problem with that. But the thing is that there is ways to get a green economy by microsizing instead of expand. Mass immigration into the country. Again, I always hit on that one. It has nothing to do with racist and big. It has everything to do with we don't have the room. It overinflates the market in the housing. It's harder on the healthcare. It's harder on it creates job scarcity, and it drives down wages. So you got to do the other thing. Think more sustainably. And you can redesign cities and stuff like that, sure. Here's what Kathleen Wynne was saying. Okay, well, we're going to take some of that money to reduce greenhouse gases. We're going to create more transit and stuff like that. Well, there's nothing worse than a city bus sitting there idling bumper to bumper. They say, oh, your car's polluting, more cars on the road. A big diesel engine sitting there running 24/7. And half the time these buses, in non-peak hours, are running pretty much empty. You got 5 people on the bus. So you got a bus that's burning probably 4 gallons, 5 gallons an hour, like a tractor trailer, sitting there idling. It's twice as bad as if somebody took their car, drove it to where they need to go, and now it's off. You know what I mean? Yes, you have more congestion in the traffic, but again, this is where the immigration thing comes in. If you had less influx of immigrants, you don't cut it all off, but you can just, you got to take it down to a reasonable, so then again, your highways aren't congested. Your highways are not congested, people are not idling as long, you'll lower your emissions. Just stuff like that. So it's the planning that's more out of whack with the emissions than the actual emissions themselves. The other thing is in this day and age, 2015, Canada is still yet to have officially, although we have 3 sports car manufacturers in Canada, but these guys build 1 car per order type of thing. You order a car, we'll build it for you. But I'm talking actual designed 100% in Canada and built 100% in Canada. We don't have that. You're telling me in this day and age, we've built airliners in this country, we have unmanned submarines that we're building, and we can't build our own car? Well, of course not. Why? Because the government in these kind of government has no business being in business. Ronald Reagan said that. That should hold true worldwide. Government has no business being in business. But that said, all the industries that pollute the biggest are backed by government. Now, again, the hydroelectric, people would probably say, yeah, keep that. We kind of need it. Sure, the oil sands, it was a good run for the country, sure, and can still be economical for the country. There's no reason in a country this rich, full of oil, that we should be buying oil from anybody else. Even if it's a little cheaper from somewhere else, again, build up our own industries. OPEC should have no bearing on, people working on Alberta. Those people on the oil rigs should still be working there. However, you need to control it so that, all that oil isn't just going to export, because yes, you can make a lot of money on the export, but the problem is that, you want to sustain the environment. You want oil for Canada first, that type of thing. So that's my take on it. So, but next to that, you need innovation. You need something to compete with oil. Right now, fossil fuels are all we're burning pretty much, right? But it doesn't mean we can't burn other things. Ethanol was a good idea in its conception too, because it's clean burning. But then it's like 5 times the emissions to make ethanol. That type of thing. On a mass scale. But what about micro scales? Well, micro scale, again, when the farmer makes his own fuel, and right now you can make up to something like 10,000 gallons or liters here in Canada of fuel a year, but there's like so many regulations on. Again, people can't compete because it's so heavily regulated. Yes, you got to regulate it sensibly, but you also got to allow the competition. Hemp fuel, stuff like that. On a micro scale, these things work well. On a mass scale, they don't normally work as well. Micro power generation. That's again. I don't think there's anything cleaner than hydro or sustainable as hydro, because hydro turbines, they last a long time. Wind turbines blow up every other week, you know what I mean? Again, if you look at California, I've been through California. Look at all the windmills there. From San Francisco right down almost to San Bernardino or whatever, almost halfway to Los Angeles. That's an 800-mile run, I think, or something like that, or I can't remember how far it is, but it's pretty far. But you're just seeing land, as far as the eye, it's like a forest of windmills. And they're telling you that's more sustainable and more green when it takes that much land to put in these windmills? Of course not. It's a scam. It's always a scam. When it's government, it's a scam. If somebody wants to put something like that on their own property, sure. Here in Quebec, if you produce your own power and you try to feed it back into the grid, you don't get paid for it. In Ontario, you used to be able to get paid for it if you could produce your own power and put it back into the grid. But then the government went and did all these programs, and that didn't make any. They said everybody with a farmer's field will put solar panels there for you, and you can produce power and put it back in the grid. And it's just no. That has to be free enterprise stuff. You have to allow people to do that themselves. So they don't allow competition, and that's the first problem. So. But yeah, carbon tax will not lower. Again, nobody explains how it actually lowers the emissions. They tell you it does, but it doesn't. They use buzzwords like zero sum. This is Agenda 21 stuff. Again, it'll meet the targets because they set the targets again for the people who they favor. Say, well, this company, we like this company, and just follow the money. You'll figure it out. And they'll basically set those targets low enough for one company, but not low enough for another, and anybody they want. Basically kill the competition, raise the prices and inflation of everything, and then, they're creating all the scarcity and stuff like that. Is there an easy solution? No, there's no easy solutions. But, again, if we, scale back on certain things and not go with this expand, again, infrastructure can be such a money velocity thing that if a government's going to throw money at something wastefully, at least throw it in your own country so that, again, the velocity of money starts going into private sector hands. It takes care of a lot of the problems, because one thing about the private sector, okay, if you're building a nut or a bolt, we'll say you're NASA, if you're building a 10-cent bolt, you'll build the thing for $300, okay? If you're in the private sector, you'll take that 10-cent bolt and try to figure out how to make it twice as good for 5 cents. That's the difference between the private sector. They try to be as efficient as possible. Why? Because they can lose their jobs. And that's the big problem. You want innovation, you need competition. That's just the way it is. And this is just, again, Al Gore's carbon credits. It's the same thing. NDP's for it. Liberals are for it. The Parti Québécois, Bloc Québécois, of course, they were for it. Anything that'll tax the people more. Because, again, here in Quebec, it's going to take 6 years to balance the budget. They're never going to balance the budget here. They wasted on the stupidest things, But anyway, that's my rant for today, I guess. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Again, you look at the basket case California's in, so I guess we're heading, Canada went from a country that's got a partially federally balanced budget, well, technically a balanced federal budget, but provincially we're, Greece, Spain, Italy, we're getting into that kind of territory, and the cost of living is going up exponentially, but wages are not going up, so, and yet they want to bring in more people, like it makes no sense whatsoever. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. So if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation. Thank you very much to everybody who has. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like, and true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day. Careful while you're watching the show. You might just actually learn something. Yeah, have a great day. G'day, hey, hi, and welcome. Check out my redneck. I was working on yesterday, so. And I'm getting ready to go to work today, so see if I pop out a quick video. I know what you're saying. Dude, didn't you quit your job? Yeah. Yeah, I did. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be quitting. Okay, well, good luck with that. Yeah. So next week we're going to get you to do this. You know how it works. But this is the kind of the final week anyway. So I'm going to let run out the rest of the week, and because I don't like leaving people hanging and stuff like that. So I'll make my decision on Friday, so to speak, and then that'll be it, so to speak. For now. All right, so cap and trade. Okay, the Al Gore carbon tax has made it to Canada. Quebec and Ontario are getting in line with California. Kazooie, where you going? You're going to take my birds from me. Yes, dog. And went out. So with cap and trade, it's a scam. That's the shortest way you can say it. It's a scam. Okay, here's how it's supposed to work, okay? And I guess they figured nobody looks into this stuff, and I guess some people you could snow them pretty easy, but it's not going to reduce any carbon emissions. It's just not going to do it, and not only that, it's going to actually make things a lot worse for the Canadian public. You have to understand, okay? Ever since the Alberta catastrophic, nuking of the oil industry by Saudi Arabia, which, again, was supposed to be destabilizing places like Russia, their economy, Iran, Venezuela, but it got everybody, right? And the thing is that's why, you notice right after that happens, 4 months of that, 4 months of Saudi Arabia pumping more oil than the world needs and dropping the price of a barrel of oil to unprofitable margins. That was also done to take out the fracking industry in the United States to not make it profitable. Okay? And you have to understand, in Canada and the United States, many of our major environmental groups are, a lot of the big ones like the Tides Foundation and stuff like that. I forget the other one there, but anyway, they're basically funded by Saudi Arabia to, because they don't want competition, right? So right after that happens, 4 months of that, takes 30 years of prosperity away from Alberta, and now it's going to take 10 years for Alberta to recover from this $7.5 billion hit. Mind you, because they could balance the budget in 1 year, but then, everybody would be so broke it wouldn't be. So they're going to take 10 years. So once that happens, it hasn't come out on the mainstream media, but the way it works in Canada is the have provinces take some of their money and give to the have-not provinces. Quebec is a have-not province. Ontario is a have-not province, which it shouldn't be. Neither of these provinces should be have-not provinces. Hey, Gazoo, what's up, buddy? And but the thing is that transfer payments, I'm sure, no longer coming from Alberta to Quebec. So that's all of a sudden you have Quebec and Ontario saying, "Oh, we're going to balance our budgets in XYZ amount of time." In Quebec here, it has went like loony toony. The provincial taxes are going up. Almost every service you could think of is going up. Hunting, fishing, trapping license, anything like that is gone up almost double on everything. Deer hunting license last year was $54. Okay, maybe you don't hunt deer, but just to give you an example, this year's going to be $80. You see what I mean? That's not a $2 hike. A fishing license was $19, 26 something, or almost $30 now. Overnight. On top of that, you got the more taxes coming onto the people everywhere. It's the province is broke, right? And of course you got the rowdies in Quebec City and in Montreal. They're the students there. They're taken to the streets again. But that's just the start of it. The students are usually the canary in the coal mine, so to speak, because students will rally on a cause quicker than